Wednesday, and I'm your anchor, Evans Chilandani Mutanchi. My guest once again is Mr. Chizo. Mr. Chizo, welcome to Businessman.
It's a pleasure to be here, Mr. Chilandani. Good to see you.
How was your week?
Fantastic. I don't know about yours.
Mine was fantastic too.
All right, good to hear that.
Thank you very much. We continue on the SMEs, because this is the platform that the SMEs would want to benefit from, and we're going to look at optimizing the SMEs performance. And I know the viewers are excited. SMEs performance and optimizing the results. This is what we're looking at today. How can we help SMEs to optimize the results?
Brilliant question, Mr. Chilandani. First and foremost, I think that we also know that it's a fact that SMEs, they haven't been doing as much as they should or as they are supposed to, vis-a-vis becoming very competitive in terms of competing with the multinational companies. And I think, and this is the more reason why we must identify these areas where the SMEs need to optimize in terms of the results that they are supposed to get so that they can become more competitive. And I think the first point that we need to identify, Mr. Chilandani, is the fact that most of SMEs need to create the many streams of income generation or revenue generation, because a business does not need to depend on only one stream of revenue or income. So there is need to broaden that in terms of creating peripheral businesses that will be able to support the actual business. And you also learn that these businesses that SMEs undertake, sometimes they do encounter, emergencies where they need to respond. And if at all they don't have, emergent funds in their reserve accounts, it might be difficult to like deliver as well as respond to those emergencies in terms of order processing as well as supplying such orders. And I think, having said that, Mr. Chilandani, it's also important to advise SMEs for them to optimize their performance, to start creating some sort of partnerships, because most of the people that are involved in SMEs businesses, most of them are loner crusaders. They want to do things in isolation. But I think it's important that people who are involved in SMEs businesses start creating partnerships and joint ventures so as to help create a certain signage in their businesses. You do know that, Mr. Chilandani, that loans have got high interest charge in terms of, returning them, as well as in terms of acquiring loans, because there are also issues of title deeds, etc., etc. So when you create a joint venture, you create a partnership, it gives a business a certain signage, you see. It puts extra impetus in terms of boosting the funds, in terms of boosting the human resource and everything that requires in terms of the business to function, I think the third point that we also need to identify, as well as tell these people who are in SMEs businesses, is the fact that we have seen that the trends on the Zambian business market has been that most people that are undertaking SMEs businesses, they don't want to be part and parcel of the associations, business associations that do exist in the country, that are found within the country. We are talking of many business associations. Talk of suppliers, Food Suppliers of Zambia, talk of Food Suppliers Forum of Zambia, talk of Zambia Institute of Marketing, talk of Zika, talk of so many business institutions. So it's important that these women and men who are involved in undertaking business activities become part and parcel of these associations. And when they become part and parcel of these associations, there will be a lot of benefits to derive out of that. And beyond the shared benefits of being a member of an association, they can also be an opportunity of businessmen who have come together to identify some members within the associations so that they can become representatives, representatives on various government fora, so that they will be able to lobby on favorable government policies that will favor the operations of SMEs, as it were, in this country, so that in that way they will be able to have favorable policies and, you know, regulations that are passed in favor of the operations of SMEs in this country, and consequently contribute to the economic development of this country.
And on the benefits, are they short-term or long-term benefits?
Of course, they are multifaceted. They are both short-term as well as long-term benefits. But you see, what is important is that government hasn't had effective policies being passed in the line of favoring SMEs businesses, probably because there hasn't been enough, or rather some representations from the people that understand the practicalities and the experiences that they go through as the owners of businesses. Because you can't have people who are not businessmen to represent you on government fora, in as far as lobbying government policies that will favor the operations of SMEs are concerned. That is a mismatch. So you need people who are businessmen themselves, those who have got companies themselves, because these are the people who understand the challenges that they go through. So much that when they are representing fellow businessmen of the association on those government fora, they will be able to advocate very strongly and agitate on policies that will favor SMEs. And Mr. Chilandami, I wanted to add an extra point, the fourth point of optimizing this, optimizing the operations of SMEs and the results that they obtain, apart from belonging to associations. I think the other critical point that people in SMEs need to start doing is to, sometimes they want to have as many clients as possible. Some clients are not even worthy making a follow-up, because to every client, keeping a client has got a cost associated to it. So I think people involved in SMEs, they need to make a choice. You see that they retain the few major accounts, what we call few major accounts or bigger clients, which are more profitable, and focus on those so that they are built in a way that they will be able to create much more revenue from that regard. But where they see that they need to broaden a client base, then they must make sure that they follow up clients that are able to bring in a business and not just code canvassing on them, spending a lot of marketing spend, promotion activities on them, and getting very little out of, the hard efforts that they put. I think that is also very important vis-a-vis this. I think in addition to that, Mr. Chilandami, even trying to SMEs, companies, they must also identify the perceived areas of their businesses which have got hidden costs, because there are some of the costs that business people don't see. Like, for instance, you are spending every other day on talk time. You are spending every other time on transport and logistics, food for the workers. Those are perceived hidden costs. So within the distribution chain of your business, identify those areas and by all means reduce the costs in those areas so much that you are able to maximize the markup, which is called the profit. And at the end of the day, you'll be able to optimize as well as, the operation of the business and get the results that you would want the business to have in order for it to boom or expand, as it were.
Why do you say it's so important to belong to an association?
Yeah, the reasons are several, Mr. Chilanda. One, when you belong to an association, it creates a platform where you are able to exchange ideas. Not only exchange ideas, exchange experiences that you go through together, because you are operating in the same environment. The practicality as well as the experiences that are drawn are very similar in a way. So it creates a platform where you share. For instance, I'll give you a practical example in this country. When I was chairing a meeting of the Suppliers Forum of Zambia, and there were a lot of businessmen and women, one thing that they all brought out as part of their experience was the fact that they are saying they are not getting as enough business as they are supposed to get, because the Department of Procurement, the procurement officers themselves, they brought out an allegation to say that the procurement officers themselves, they have started forming their own companies, sometimes registering their own relatives on the pretext that they are not the owners of those companies. So instead of giving a genuine businessman or a businesswoman in this country as a supplier that type of a order, they end up giving themselves the business and paying themselves. Therefore, and these are the people who are employed, they are supposed to be there as professional employees, because that is the job they undertake, and that is the job where they get their livelihood. You see, now when you join an association, those things start coming out. Then you sit together and say, how do we find a solution to this? Just like I would want to take this opportunity to urge our colleagues in the various procurement departments of various organizations and institutions, that if this allegation that was brought to our table when I was chairing a meeting, is it true? Or should there be some facts in it? I think they should refrain from doing this, and it must come to an end. Because these business women and men who have got this business to undertake as their livelihood and their mainstay, you see, they will find means of, finding a solution to this kind of a challenge or a problem. Because these procurement officers of various procurement departments are employed, and they're supposed to be professional on their jobs. And you see, and they are supposed to make sure that they carry their duties without being encroached by such things that we are talking about, of forming their own companies. So that is the importance of it. Then too, you learn that when you belong to an association, it's not always that you are going to be contained. There are times that you might want to create a joint venture, like we have talked about, to create a signage for your business. But now, this provides a platform where you're able to know one another. Because without an association, probably I wouldn't have had an opportunity to meet a person like Mr. Chilandami. But because you thought of going to an association, because like I've said, businessmen like to operate in isolation. You thought of going to an association, I also go to an association, we meet. And in a way, if we have a certain challenge, we can create a joint venture, we partner. We create a signage and be able to boost our business and meet the demands of our customers, as it were, whichever products and services that we are supplying them. And there are several many, benefits that one can derive from joining an association. But I think I've just brought out two critical ones in that regard. Okay.
So what are some of the gray areas that need to be improved where SMEs are concerned?
Yeah, Mr. Chilandami, gray areas, there are plenty. But I think one of the major ones that we have identified amongst the SMEs is the fact that SMEs in normal circumstances, they are too much into a lot of activity, to such a degree that they get overshadowed. They don't put, monitoring systems and evaluation systems within their businesses, so that they will be able to identify the shortfalls within certain areas within their distribution chain, and be able to make adjustments where it requires to be done. For instance, if an SME had to put a certain monitoring and evaluation systems within their businesses, they will know whether the business will require an improvement in terms of the quality of a product or a service, if that is what has been lacking, or maybe there might be a need or a call for a service excellence, as it were, because the evaluation and monitoring system will be able to give them feedback. And then that will also help improve, the overall performance of the business and optimize the functionality these SMEs businesses and obtain the required results. I think that is one of the major gray area that SMEs need to identify, start working on that gray area so that improvements can be made going forward. I think the second gray area, Mr. Chilandam, that I would tell you is the fact that we have noted that most SME businesses, they think that huge expenditure on marketing, promotional campaigns and advertising is a waste of resource. Maybe by the fact that this bring out, the results that come out of this, probably most of the times are long-term results. So they don't have the patience, the endurance probably to wait for 2 or 3 years down the road to start reaping the results. They would want everything happens instantaneously there and then. But I think the best professional advice and also a practical advice that I can give fellow people in SME businesses is the fact that they need to spend as much as possible in promoting and advertising their businesses, because the long-term benefits are immense than the immediate spend and expenditure on such promotional campaigns. And I think those are the areas that they should start looking at. It's not a waste of money, it's not a waste of resources. So it's imperative that any business, for it to boom and optimize its performance and the results, it needs to create awareness. Customers need to know that you have got this product and of this quality at this value for money price, and these are the benefits that you are going to derive out of using that product or service, to make sure that everything is tailored to a customer to understand. And also sell establishment, where you are found, how easily people can access you, all those types of things are imperative that they become part and parcel of the running of the business, for it to be optimized and obtain the required results, so that you become more competitive, not only at a local level, even with the multinational companies, because that is the future that we would want to envisage going forward.
Right. I just want to emphasize another point on advertising. I'm talking like this because I've got a brother who is in a supply of machinery. He says, I cannot advertise because these things are machines and they take long. If I was doing, my business was consumables, things that run quickly, I would be comfortable with the advertising. How important is advertising for SMEs?
Yes, very important. In fact, you learn with technicalities that when you are talking about the promotional tools of business, and one thing that pops up is advertising. And the advantages of advertising are several, in a sense that when people are watching a TV, they are glued to a TV not only, but they want to learn, they want to get entertainment and all sorts of things. And in getting entertainment, some people will get carried just because maybe you have designed your advert so well that it entertains somebody, and it works on the on the subconscious of an individual, and eventually, before you know it, the person falls in love with your products and everything else. And when that person starts buying your product just because they had to come across a TV interview, it means that after the use and is satisfied, you start talking about your product favorably to his friends, his colleagues at work, in the community, and just the word of mouth passed from one individual to the other. It creates another advertising for you. It will bring extra more people to buy your product. So advertising is so broad in a sense, because if you get into the intricacies of advertising itself, it goes beyond the television you're talking about, it goes beyond the posters you're talking about, it goes beyond the outer vision. Is quite a broad subject, and that's
advertising is selling itself.
It is selling itself. So advertising should be part and parcel of it. It should be part and parcel of the business, no matter whether we obtain the short-term and long-term results, but we must make sure that promotional elements are brought into our business as part of our expenditure, because when the reaping time comes, I think the benefits are going to be, enormous, as it were.
Are there things that you cannot advertise?
Well, from what I know, as long as you're in business, it means that you have to sell. And for you to sell, advertising is part of it.
Right.
Yeah, so to me, everything that is on sale and is business, it has to be advertised. Because, Mr. Chilandami, believe me, even churches have gone to an extreme of advertising. Because if a church can have even advertising executives within themselves, because a church in a pure marketing sense and a business sense, we look at a church to be an unsought goods, meaning that it's a good that people will reach out to by faith. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
But if unsought goods are also being advertised, it just makes a much huge pronouncement how much a tangible product needs to be advertised, how much an actual service needs to be advertised. And I think to me it's imperative that advertising becomes an argument, or rather even a core issue in every business SMEs to optimize, because we want to optimize the performance of these SMEs and obtain the required results to become much more competitive.
Right.
So, yeah.
Which practical solution do you think stakeholders like procurement department need to address as regards to the way they relate with SMEs?
Fantastic question, Mr. Chilandal. You see, one thing that we need to know is that mostly SMEs do interface, or rather they liaise with the procurement departments. And by that feature, Mr. Chilandami, you note that sometimes these procurement departments are busy making internal changes within their systems without informing the stakeholders. And one of the stakeholders to this department is a supplier who happens to be holding an SME company. So I think one of the gray area that I would want to appeal to all buyers out there is the fact that they shouldn't be, company focused. They have to become stakeholder focused, because the stakeholder is part of what they do in the procurement department. So whenever they are making internal changes within the procurement department, they must make sure that first and foremost they inform and involve the stakeholders who are the suppliers of products and services on the Zambian market, to say these are the internal changes that we are making restructures or we are undergoing as a procurement department, and this is how it is going to affect you as a supplier going forward, and you need to get abreast to it so that we move at the same speed. You see, that synchronization itself, you know what I mean? It brings things, it creates a full picture where business is able to become in a better operational sense, and create a situation where that optimization that we are talking about in terms of optimizing the performance of these SMEs, as well as obtaining the required results are concerned, will be important, because they are not going to be left out. They will be able to move at the same pace. I think that is critical.
Right. Any final remarks? Especially in an appealing way, especially to the government and any stakeholders?
Yeah, I think what I would appeal to the all stakeholders, and especially the emphasis on the government, is the fact that they should create avenues where not only professional businessmen who hold SMEs companies, but even laymen, as long as they're involved in the activities of doing business, they should be given a fora where they can become representatives of fellow businessmen in order to negotiate as well as lobby the government on some of the favorable policies that will be passed and regulations that will be passed in favor of the way SMEs should run businesses on the Zambian market, as it were, and create this engine as a key to developing our economy. It doesn't augur well to have a minister who has never run his own company, doesn't understand the challenges that practical businessmen and women in this country go through, because they are the ones that go through these practical experiences on a day-to-day basis. They understand the challenges, so they are better positioned to tell the government to say, this is where you have missed it, this is where you are going wrong. If these adjustments were to be made, and this is coming out of the experiences that we go through, this country can do better. And we are the people, because we have got these practical experiences beyond the theory that we have gathered, to tell the government and the people that pass rules and regulations and policies that would favor the SMEs, to say that this is the right way to go, because this is the way it is going to work as the best way, because we know and we understand. And I think this is the appeal that I would want to make, to say, create fora where we have representation ourselves, so that we'll be able to tell you issues, to say that these are the issues that are on the ground, these are the issues that you need to resolve, and this is the solution that we have, because we know we have got the solutions, and we do not only know the problems, but we also know the solutions, but we haven't been given an avenue. We haven't been given a forum where we can have our views aired, except that I've chaired a number of meetings, and I've attended a lot of meetings with the Zambia Public Procurement Authority, and we have brought up a lot of issues, but these issues are not documented whatsoever. And if you don't document anything whatsoever, it means that it is just blown by the wind. It doesn't impact where it is supposed to impact the most. And we are saying that bring us in that folder, so that when we agitate and advocate and lobby and negotiate, then we even make compilations, so that we'll be reminding you to say, that is still gathering dust, you have done nothing about it. Because we do know that even at Zipper, there are a lot of things that are gathering dust that the government hasn't put in practical, implementation. And I think we would want even to raise those dead bones, and put some fresh to them, so that they can start kicking and running and talking and breathing, so that
and time is now.
Yes, and time is now, and we are the people to do it. Nobody's gonna do it. And Mr. Chilandam, the fact that you have said time is now, I think we should change the mentality which has dragged this country for so too long. Because we always think, and this is bad mindset, to think that we need to wait for a foreign investor to come and invest in this country to create jobs for the people. Even the government needs to change the mindset and their language, to say that we need to empower young people with entrepreneurship skills, so that they can start creating bigger companies that are competitive and create more jobs locally. Suppose the foreign investor, who they are ever running to every other time, doesn't come in this country, what happens next? That is a big question. It's $1 million question I would want to ask everyone else there, to say that that foreign investor that you always run to for investment to create jobs in this country, suppose he refuses that, I will never come to your country, what will be your next plan of action? And that's the $1 million question. If they fail to answer that, then we are going to provide an answer to them.
Right. Mr. Chizo, thanks very
much. It has been a pleasure, Mr. Chilanda.
Sure. Well, viewers, that's how we come to the end of today's business interview on CBC Business Morning. Join us again on Wednesday when we continue on the same forum. I'm Evans Landani Motanshi on behalf of my camera person, Douglas Jaswe. Good morning.